Welcome to the Judgment Free Zone. You've downloaded the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast with Matt and Amy, recorded live from the cornfields of Central Illinois. Welcome to episode 95 for December 9th, 2024.
Well, hello there, children. Welcome back to your weekly freak show. This is the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast. I am Matt, along with the always lovely and a little raspy today, Coach Amy. How are you, my love?
I'm great.
You're great. Okay, that's cool.
I'd just like to say to everybody, Merry Christmas. And
She says she oversang. I don't
I
know.
oversang in church yesterday.
I'm not sure if that's a thing, but okay.
Joy to the World. If you guys haven't seen, what is
Four
it?
Christmases.
Four Christmases.
We go to a
And
more
it's-
contemporary church, you could
We
say.
go to, when we first started attending our church, I mean, the big change was going from a very conservative
Organ-based,
music and everything, and then you walk
To
into
full band smoke machine.
to rock and roll church.
Yes.
And I love it. I'm on the worship team now. It took me several years to get over that hump, and but yesterday
You weren't even on the worship team yesterday.
I
You're
wasn't.
just
One
singing.
of the other members of the worship team said a couple of weeks ago, she's like, "Oh yeah," and then I oversang, and I'm like, "Oh, I like that." So I have clearly oversang. I'm like starting to lose my voice, but it was so much fun because it was Joy to the World, and it's one of my very favorite renditions, and
I know. It always reminds me
it
of that
always
movie.
reminds me of that movie.
So when this podcast is over, go watch Four Christmases, and you'll know it's like going to our church, apparently.
No, it's not.
No, it's not like that.
No.
That song part might be, but Well, kids, while you're out there and looking things up, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. You can always leave us a voicemail, 224-225-9302. That's also down in the
Oh,
description.
I like how you added that on there.
Well, I've been meaning to for like the past, month, as our dog's hiding her bone on the couch.
If the video starts to go a little crazy,
It's because she's walking
It's
on our,
because
she's
she's
walking on
walking
our
on-
tripod, basically.
the mattress.
Don't give away the fourth wall, Amy. Don't break the fourth wall.
Man. So
We also have all those links down below where you can download our Beyond Spirit 7 Tips to Start Your AF Journey and our weekly marriage guide and the infamous Coach Amy's Advent AF calendar.
my alcohol-free Advent calendar, 25 ideas to motivate, center, and let go and let God during the Christmas season. Plus, it has alcohol-free holiday tips for parties, events, and family gatherings. So,
And way fewer calories than you may find in the chocolate Advent calendar.
true.
Just saying. Yes.
Very, very true.
And I have a birthday coming up this week. I will be 51 years young.
51.
I know. Gotta be sure I don't add an extra year to my age. Sometimes we've done that in the past years of like, I'm gonna be, and then by the time you get to the birthday, it's like, now I'm another year.
In August, I was already calling myself 57.
Yes. Don't rush to.
I'm 56.
You've got the senior
So
discount.
I'm super glad that
You're
you are going to be turning 51. So now we close in that gap. I'm only now 5 years older.
There you go.
According, yeah. So, anyways,
And I just want to point out, it is possible to have small group get-togethers for the holidays and not have alcohol.
we had a great time. We invited, I think, maybe one couple had brought their own
At least
alcohol
one, but
beverage, but I don't care. And it was great.
We just said,
were
bring your own if you want.
Bring your own. We had a great time.
We had some NA stuff if they wanted that.
Yeah. And
Most people just had water, but yes, a couple of people brought their
water,
own drink and
Coke, whatever.
Yeah.
We just had a really, really fun time.
it also takes a little pressure off the planning of the party. We don't have to worry about what everybody wants to drink. You just bring your own drink, and then I don't have to worry about buying 52 different drinks.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a really fun, had a white elephant gift.
But see, we had that party in quotes. We got to bed at a decent hour and still got up early to go to have pancakes before.
Well, we got up and we walked.
Oh, we walked, then had pancakes.
Did a couple mile walk, and then we came in. I was like, hey, let's do a date.
No, you're like, hey, let's go get pancakes because we don't want to cook.
True.
That is true.
So we went, and that was fun. And then we went down to do a task, and then forgot about doing the
Amy
task.
goes, no, we used to. Now, keep in mind, this is Sunday morning when we're recording this. Amy says, hey, we can go to do that, and then we can run our errands. Well, when you go to breakfast at 8:30 on a Sunday, you're done by 9:15, maybe 9:30.
Yeah, you can't run your errands.
Nothing's open. She's like,
Yeah.
what about this place? I said, noon. She's like, how about we go home and take a shower, do the podcast, and then we'll try this
Exactly.
again. So we'll try it again later, kids.
It's all good.
It's all good from Diego to
It's
the
all
hood.
good.
That's what they say.
Um,
Amy, we're not doing a drink of the week this week.
oh, because our drink of the week is.
This podcast is a drink of the week.
Yeah, the whole podcast is a drink of the week.
This week's podcast features Grant Wood from BERO. He is the brewmaster of BERO. We love BERO.
Yes.
We've highlighted the
Yes.
beers on here. We highlight it in this episode.
Yeah.
Go download and just go buy it.
Download wouldn't that be cool?
Download your beer. They did have a Black Friday sale where you could get a free 6-pack with a
You
case.
need to
That
get
is
on
over.
it, Matt.
Well, that sale's over, but I
know,
order
but you
more.
need to just still get on getting us some because
I
I do
know.
like it. So why don't you bring up your phone there?
Go ahead. When we're done here, that'll be on my
Yes.
first thing to do. But
Yes.
before Amy reads the bio, this is a great interview. Grant covers I didn't even know all the ways you can brew in a beer.
It's very educational, very informative.
His experiences just working with Tom Holland on this project.
Him being a creative too.
Yeah, and him
I
being-
love that aspect of it.
Just looking for a new challenge.
Yeah, like to make something that is really good.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of cover, a little bit about Tom's story, just briefly,
yeah.
and that really ties into the whole brand and everything. So
Yeah, it's a fun brand and it's a great interview. So Amy, tell us about Grant.
Right. Well, Grant Wood has over 40 years of experience as a brewmaster at some of the world's most prestigious breweries. He is passionately dedicated to the craftsmanship, tradition, and essence of brewing an exceptional beer, what he affectionately refers to as the beverage of friendship. His work on BERO non-alcoholic beer has been a true labor of love, characterized by continuous iterations and an unwavering commitment to refining the formula, much like perfecting a cherished recipe to provide the utmost pleasure. So here is that interview.
Well, we are here today with Grant Wood, the brewmaster of BERO, the newest, hottest alcohol-free beer on the market. Grant, welcome.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're excited to hear about the BERO story. But before we do, can you just sort of share with our audience your history of brewing? I believe this was not your first beer you ever brewed. So what's your background in brewing?
Yeah, it's frankly, it's frightening to think about how long I've been in the brewing industry. Went back and was thinking about this. So I came into brewing in 1985. So prior to that, I was at Texas A&M University and got my degree in food science and technology, and got out of A&M, got married, needed a job, and decided to move to San Antonio and took this job for the job in San Antonio, making picante sauce actually, and which is a little ways from brewing. They're typically on the table together. But what ended up happening was it was a terrible job, hated it, quit, started doing odd jobs just to kind of keep some cash flow going. I was helping handicapped adults and painting houses and doing these sort of things. And again, only been married less than a year. My wife took her role seriously, and I would joke she kicked me in the butt one day and said, "Hey, get a real job, and one that involves your degree." And so I took her advice, and which is always good, and sent out a series of resumes in the greater San Antonio area, and was very, very fortunate to get an interview at Pearl Brewing Company. And so got hired at Pearl Brewing Company into the laboratory, discovered how interesting it was to make beer, and I decided I was going to do my best to make a career out of making beer. And so from there, I was fortunate again to get them to send me to brewing school in Chicago at the Siebel Institute, and this is back in 1987. So took the long course, got a certificate in brewing, came back, and was a brewing supervisor basically from the end of 1987 at Pearl, working midnights. And that's how I got in. It wasn't really from a homebrew perspective, because a lot of folks that I know have, fell in love with beer and brewing as a home brewer, became, decided to make a career out of it. So raised money and built a brewery. I came in from the other side. I came in from the professional side and the laboratory, working at the time, a pretty large regional brewery.
That's amazing. And you've worked for some pretty big names in the brewing industry, right?
Right. So from Pearl and my 4 years there, went across town to Lone Star Brewing Company,
Mm.
also in San Antonio. Worked there for 6 years. Probably might still be in San Antonio if the economics of that brewery hadn't basically gone south. And so again, was very, very fortunate. Got a job with Samuel Adams in Boston, and so moved to Boston back in 1995, and worked for the Boston Beer Company. Sorry, is that right? Is that got to get my numbers right? So yeah, that's about right. So 95 to 2011, I worked for the Boston Beer Company and was doing a variety of different things with them, all related to brewing management and recipe development and that sort of thing. And then in 2000, the end of 2011, I moved back to Texas and took the opportunity to do a startup brewery called Revolver Brewing here in Granbury. And it became wildly successful, way beyond what I ever thought it would be. I thought I'd be out in the countryside making a little beer, selling a little beer, that sort of thing. But created a beer called Blood and Honey, which exploded over the North Dallas or North Texas scene and drew the attention of a large brewery, Miller Coors. And we ended up selling that brewery to Miller Coors back in 2019.
So then you've just been living the retired life since then, just hanging out?
Yeah, I was. I had basically retired at the end of 2020, kind of in the middle of COVID, after handing the reins over to a new management staff there, and was kind of taking it easy, doing a little consulting, doing a little traveling, and just kind of taking it easy. But I got kind of bored and was not really looking for an opportunity, but this opportunity to do BERO came along. The gentleman who is CEO and was tapped to build a team and start the brewery up, he had contacted an old friend of mine from my Boston beer days, and he could not do it at the time. He was in the middle of his own project and startup with a different company. And when John asked him if he knew anybody else who might be able to do this for him, he mentioned my name. And so when John called me about this time last year, asked me if I would be interested in either consulting or coming back to work full time, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so,
Wow.
you know, got off the bench and got back to work.
So had you previously done anything brewing NA beers? Had you dabbled in it or done any NA brewing up to this point?
I had done a little. I had done a tiny sliver of recipe development and a couple of trials, and it's an interesting kind of got to go back to 2018, frankly. And I was at a brewing conference and had gone to a talk about kind of trends in the industry, looking into the future about a variety of things in brewing. And they were talking about non-alcoholic, or low alcohol, no alcohol
Mhm.
beers. And I was sitting next to a coworker of mine, a friend of mine, and I said, we should be doing that. We should be in this space. It's like I said, it's 2018. And in chatting with him, I just felt like there was a real opportunity, particularly here in Texas, I felt, because no one was really doing what I would consider craft non-alcoholic beers at the time.
Right.
Big boys made them. They're sort of an extension, kind of a tiny sliver
Mhm.
of a line extension for them, and so they could be on the shelf. And I'm not sure in my opinion, that there was a lot of creativity going into these offerings that were there, right?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, it was very like, here's our non-alcoholic version. Enjoy. We don't care. That's really the
Exactly.
vibe it kind of gave. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I wanted to take that craft beer excitement and mentality, different styles, that sort of thing, and see if that could be applied to non-alcoholic. And no one was interested. No one at my level or in my area was really interested in pursuing this. I guess at the time, and even just a couple of years ago, it was felt to be there was just not enough market to really warrant the attention.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, interestingly, some other folks with different ideas about that picked up picked up that idea and ran with it. And so, flash forward to this year, right, 6 years later, there's a lot of interest in this category. There's a lot of creativity in the space, and I didn't think I was going to get to do it. And so, when John called me up with this idea of creating these beers, that was probably the only thing that was going to get me off the bench to go out and try to create these new non-alcoholic beers or less than zero point 0.5 beers
Mm-hmm.
to just kind of, I don't know, challenge me and my creativity to see if I could make beers that tasted good. And that
And
that
we,
happened to not have a lot of alcohol in them. So
now, when we talked before, you're not necessarily a non-drinker, right?
correct. Yeah. I've been in the industry for a long time. Um, I I think I understand the pitfalls of it. I've seen it be a challenge for coworkers and people that I know who like alcohol a little too much,
Right.
and it gets ahead of them. And so I'm not a young man anymore, and for me, I like the idea of not drinking as much and moderating that. And it's nice to go and have a couple of non-alcoholic beers. I'm enjoying a baseball game or a football game. I'm enjoying the taste of the beer, enjoying the taste of the product, and I don't have to worry about it the next day, and or even later in the evening.
Right.
It's really nice because I like the flavor of beer. Obviously, if you have a beer and you find it relaxing, that's great. But for me, I want to be careful about it
Right.
and, and
100%. Yeah.
and make it
And
a
this,
part of a healthier lifestyle, right?
right.
Yeah.
And these products, the NA category really helps people still keep, because I'm the same way. Like, I enjoy a beer.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoy the flavor, the taste, the experience, go to a game, those type of things. I
Sure.
just don't want the alcohol. And this advent of all these NAs, and good NAs, to your point, right? Not just
Yeah.
a subline on a macro brewery. So did you run into any like challenges, right, when you're doing this? Because you come from the alcohol side. Like, what background did you have to sort of be like, did you do a lot of research to be like, okay, how do I, because this is a point under 0.5 beer, right? Not a 0.0 beer. And that's a different
Correct.
process, right?
Yeah. 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 There are challenges. Absolutely. The When the project was presented to me and we're trying to decide exactly how we're going to do this, I knew of three basic ways to make non-alcoholic beer or 0.0 beer. And those are two different things, regulatory wise, also, and in construction. But he had three different ways. One way is the old way that I knew from my way back at Pearl Brewing Company. Pearl Brewing Company made Texas Select, which was a near beer, and it was made by taking basic beer, distilling it under a vacuum, which drives off the alcohol, and you keep what's left, and then you dilute that back and add some things to it to make it taste more like beer. And so 40 years ago, when I was kind of seeing how this was done, the beer doesn't taste that great. It tastes kind of cooked. It was there to go on to military bases for a few people. It was a very tiny product that they didn't make very much of, and so I remembered that, and that technology still exists. There have been some new ones that have come up. You can take beer and run it through a molecular filter or a reverse osmosis filter, which presses the water and the alcohol through a permeable, a very slightly permeable membrane where the water and the alcohol can pass through, but everything else stays behind. And so you can run it through this filtration process, this very super molecular fine filtration process, hold on to the retentate, the beer that's had all the alcohol removed from it, dilute that back. Perhaps you add some flavors and hop extracts and things like that to the end. And you can make a very nice non-alcoholic beer. You can even take that all the way down to 0.0. So that's the second way. And then the third way was to perhaps use a yeast, a different modified yeast that doesn't ferment as much. And that was the angle that I wanted to take. I had heard about some different, what are called maltose negative yeasts. That means they don't eat maltose. And typical, I'm going to get slightly technical for a
I
moment.
was going to say, I got to get my slide rule out. Hold on a second.
Yeah, forgive me, but here's the deal.
No,
So
no.
when you make a beer, when you take malt and you brew with it, and you're basically taking the starches out of the beer, enzymes chop up starches into small sugars like glucose, maltose, maltotriose. That's where the sugars come from for the fermentation that the yeast is going to do. And in a normal fermentation, the yeast is going to eat most of that sugar. It's going to eat the maltose, maltotriose, glucose, those things to make the alcohol, the fermentation characters. And in maltose negative yeast, it just eats the glucose. It doesn't eat very much. There's not much glucose there. So the fermentation creates a tiny bit of alcohol. If you balance the malt supply to deliver only about 0.5%, that's how we decided to do it. And I wanted to do that for a couple of reasons. One is, it frankly is simpler. I don't need to go buy a very expensive piece of equipment, make a full strength beer, and then pass it through this machine that is going to spit non-alcoholic beer out one side, alcohol, water out the other side, and then have to figure out what to do with that. And it's expensive. I mean, it's a lot of capital to do that sort of thing. And so my feeling was, I want to be able to take this recipe and be able to go to a brewery, and I bring this yeast in there. We do this recipe. I don't need a specialized piece of equipment, and then we can do the fermentation. It makes that little bit of alcohol, and I can formulate to that finish where it's got a little bit of alcohol. I've put these different malts in there. I'm adding the hops at a specific level that gives a balanced flavor and also gives that impression of fermentation. The thing that makes beer taste like beer is the yeast and the fermentation products that come after that. So it's got that sort of fruity, estery note that when you smell it, you know that yeast has done its job, basically. And so to me, it was the simpler way. And frankly, it doesn't kind of take the soul out of the beer when you pass it through some sort of separation system. I think it loses something, even the best. And so you have to make up for that somehow. And so anyway, I came to the maltose negative modified fermentation type thing. And I think the results have been great. I've been super happy with it. And it kind of keeps my life a little bit simpler that way from the formulation standpoint. And yeah. And it's beer that just doesn't happen to have as much alcohol in it.
Right.
And it tastes great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really is
It is
good.
amazing.
You guys like them?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I had to keep these 3 back. So I haven't placed my next order, and I didn't want the family over Thanksgiving drinking them. I'm like, I have an interview. Do not drink these.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
And I want to say that for us, just going back to some of the, like you said, you went back to 2018, and I quit drinking and going into the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that where I was at, it wasn't going to work for me. And it really turned out to be a health issue.
Sure.
And then going out and we love going to breweries. That was a part of our lifestyle. And so when that was taken, I decided I didn't want to be able to participate in that.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, what's been so great is we've got to watch this evolution.
Right.
And we've also gotten to taste. Like we've gone on this whole
Taste
thing
the
when
evolution.
we're like, oh no, that one doesn't really quite make it. This one,
Right.
and as we were going through, and so honestly, I was really skeptical. I was excited, but I was skeptical. I'm like, all right,
Well, is it a is it a
is
celebrity cash grab? Right. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, hey,
and
it almost too perfect, right?
but yes. So I think that was, but I've been also in this space. I'm an alcohol freedom coach. And so um when I saw Tom's story, like when he came out, I was like, it just all like how he talked about like, okay, I'm doing this. And now 6 months in, I'm just gonna see what it's like.
Yeah.
That really reflected our stories. And so I was when he came out and he said he was doing this, I'm like, okay, this could be really, really good.
Well, and there's so many celebrities, right, Grant, that do like, tequilas and vodkas and all the booze, right? And like that's a very in vogue thing for a celebrity to do. I don't personally know of any other celebrities doing an NA beverage,
Beer.
Yeah.
a beer
Yeah.
especially.
There might be another one, but it escapes me. But yeah, I'm so glad you brought up Tom and Tom's story. I won't lie. I mean, I thought that was a good reason to jump into this because here's a guy with a genuine story. It came from him, and
Mhm.
and actually, what I thought was interesting, it was internally driven. It's not like he got into some trouble with the law or he had some issue. It's like I'm going to wake up. He wakes up one day and he goes, I'm not feeling great. And
Mhm.
the way that I've been living isn't working for me. So I'm going to take beer out of my life or alcohol out of my life in general, and I'm going to see how it works for me. And he in his discussions, he says it wasn't easy, right?
Mm-mm.
It wasn't easy for him that first month, that first 2 months, and even that first 6 months was kind of like, man, this is harder than I thought it would be. And that was sort of setting off alarm bells in his head. And, now he's 2.5 years down the line, or almost three.
Mhm.
And the thing that was intriguing, again, not just his story, but he's a very genuine guy. He's a very nice guy. And the other thing I want to drive home is this isn't really a cash grab for him. It's He's really passionate about it. It's his only
Mhm.
commercial business venture that he's got going, and he's vested in it. He's
Mhm.
invested in it emotionally and mentally. He wants to be a part of it, and he's very excited. He has a lot of feedback about what I've been doing, about the beers that we've been making. He had very particular ideas and about the marketing, about all aspects of the business. And so I just think it's been great for him. And the driver, not just the health, obviously the health thing and his own mental place. But back to your point about you want to go to breweries, you want to go be social, right?
Mhm.
And so for him, as a young man who's very socially active, he he felt a little like uncomfortable sometimes, right? If he's out with his
Mhm.
friends, out in a social setting, and he's drinking I'm drinking my carbonated water today, and he's just drinking, a club soda with some lemon or lime or something like that, and his friends are having a pint, and he feels a little awkward, like he's
Mhm.
not really a part of it.
Right.
And an impetus behind this was he wanted to have a beer that he could enjoy socially when he's out with his friends or at home with his friends and is enjoying a beer and but just doesn't happen to have alcohol in it. And that was kind of a driver for him to create this brand and these products. And I think that is a I think that's a thing that many people who have decided to take a step back from alcohol or take a complete step back from alcohol, I think that is a thing in their mind that they still want to be social they still want to be out there with their friends, and they don't want to feel like they're different somehow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I do think the social aspect of beverage is important. I like to talk about beer as the beverage of friendship.
Mm.
You when you call somebody, or you text somebody, or you say, hey, you want to go get a beer, and not necessarily, hey, you want to go drink a glass of water, or even go have a Chardonnay. It's a very different, feel. And just that let's go have a beer, let's go do this thing, let's go be social over a beverage.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of thing.
100%.
I love that.
So you've launched with 3 styles. So when you sat down with Tom, did he say these are the 3 styles I want, or did he say, "Hey Grant, make me 3 styles"? How did you get to the 3 styles that you started with?
Yeah, I think if we went to really the market, right? What is the market asking, or what is the market delivering, and what are people asking of the market to put in their fridge or on their shelf? And lagers, pills or lager is the number one, right? That's the number one category out there stylistically. Right behind it are IPAs. The hazy IPA has been very popular here in the United States, getting popular in the UK, but really here in the US. And then wheat beers. And wheat beers are a great basis for a jumping off place for a variety of fruit ads and souring and all that sort of stuff. So those seem like the three most logical ones. And so that's where we started. You got to start somewhere.
Hmm.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's where we went.
And if I'm not mistaken, did Tom name them or help name them? They all have a name. We'll go through them real quick. So the first one's that hazy IPA you talked about. Love a
Yeah.
hazy IPA. So
Yeah.
it's Edge Hill.
Yeah.
What's the story with that name?
Yeah. So it might actually be easier to go to Kingston, the Pills, because it's kind of ground zero. Tom grew up in Kingston on Thames in the UK. And so we named it Kingston Golden Pills after Kingston. And so if you also look at the can, if you look under the BERO between the Kingston, you may see an impression of a
Hmm.
fish, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trout, which is, well, we kind of call it the humble trout, but it's the trout that's on the coat of arms for the city of Kingston on Thames. And so we wanted to take that and make it a little bit of an image, and make it a part of the branding. So starting with the Kingston Golden Pilsner, then let's go back to Edge Hill. Edge Hill Hazy IPA is where he went to school, on Edge Hill. That's right there in Kingston.
Oh, gotcha.
And so he jokes about how he named it after the school that he went to, and he's not sure that the headmaster appreciates that.
didn't like that homage, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if people like having,
Well,
beers named
it's
after the
non-alcoholic
school.
beer, so it's fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then Noon is the name of his dog. So
Yeah,
they
I
have a
thought I'd heard that. Yeah.
little black dog that they named Noon, which I'm not sure where that came from, but that's the beer's name.
That's the beer's
I
name.
love it.
Do you have plans for future beers?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We're working on a brand extension as we speak. We've already made the first version of that. Going back to a little brewery that we've been working with in the next 2 weeks to do version 2. And hopefully that's it. It'd be nice if we were able to nail this at version 2. I was very happy, and Tom was actually very happy with version 1. And we're going to do a few little tweaks just to make sure we've got it right. But I think it's going to be very, very good. And it's a old it's a West Coast IPA style. So if you've had the three, you may have noted that there's not an aggressive bitterness in any of them. And the Pills is the most hoppy. If you think of bitterness and hoppiness, the IPA that we're working on now was a West Coast of the United States style, which will have some bitterness to it. It's going to be a bit more hop forward, but with balance. And so that's the trick.
Very nice.
I'm
Yeah.
loving that hop forward.
Yeah. She's not a very hop
I'm not a
forward
hop
beer.
forward, but I'm telling you, I love I've really enjoyed the Pilsner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're usually a
I
pills.
really do.
Yeah.
It's really good. I love the packaging. I loved the note. I loved the card that came. Because we also have um Matt's parents own a print shop, so we're like paper people too. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there feeling, I'm like, this is nice. This is good paper. This is luxe. I really, all of that marketing, the story, being on the website, I just, it's rich.
You're creating an experience, not
It
just hey,
is.
buy our beer.
I'm glad you pointed that out, and I'm glad that appealed to you. I have to give a lot of credit to the marketing team, Jackie Widman and Hyojin Park, and the entire e-commerce side of that, Cecile Rogers and that whole team. And I got to give a shout out to my ops people also, who are making sure that it gets where it's supposed to go. There was a lot of thought put into, obviously, if you start with the can, the appearance of the can. Tom had a lot of input on that. We wanted that luxury look. We wanted
Mhm.
that high end look. And if you take that can and you line it up against a lot of the other non alcoholics, it stands out. It stands out in front of beer as well. I mean, it just looks beautiful. It has the textures that I think bring that luxury feel. The packaging, we wanted to make sure that since we're sending it direct to consumer at this point, you want that to arrive on someone's doorstep looking great. When they open it, that heavy external cardboard packaging is very sturdy. You could probably build a house out of that stuff. It's pretty thick. That corrugate, it's beautiful, and they did a great job with that. Everything fits in there perfectly. The exterior six pack, nice printing, a little heavier material, all of those things that go into the experience of purchasing and taking it, opening it up in your house. The card, the notes that came to you, really nicely printed,
Mhm.
heavy weight of the
Mhm.
paper for that. So yeah, it was all of a thought, all wanting to deliver that premium experience out of the gate.
Well, and go ahead, Matt.
No, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and being a family that has followed Spider-Man through all of the
Since our son was 2,
Marvel
who's now
universe,
24, so yeah.
um, it's just been kind of fun. It's like, well, now I just say, you know what, we're drinking Spider-Man's beer. Okay. This is what we're doing. And that is this past week was a lot of fun. Like, no, we're doing this. So we're excited that you are here with us. And
Yeah.
I'm just excited for Tom to
Yeah.
be doing this because it has our heart, because Matt went to a brewery locally here a few years ago when there wasn't NA stuff at that brewery, and said, "Hey, would you just carry something for
Yeah.
us?" And they did. So now that's the place we go to. We're like, "Oh, well, we can go with our friends." So you explained that whole thing. We didn't want to be like, I mean, I don't want to say outcasts, but we
Right.
wanted to feel truly included
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the experience. And I can't wait to see where this starts to land, because I'm sure that this is a part of it, that it's going to be all right, now we're going to get into restaurants, and be there. And we're going to be there. And
Yeah. Hey,
we
Grant,
keep asking.
what is the you mentioned right now it's direct to consumer.
Yeah.
What is sort of the distribution plan to get it, on store shelves or in, restaurants and breweries and those type of things?
Yeah. So we have a guy there, our senior vice president of sales and distribution. It's a guy named Declan Duggan, who he's been around in the brewing industry and in drinks for a while. So right now, as we speak, he's reaching out pretty much all over the United States to get distribution partners. And so we're going to be working to be in beer distribution houses, to be in that same channel. So it's easier. It's easy for them to treat it just like getting a beer into their warehouse, getting it on the retail shelf, stocking the shelf, doing all those things that they do for other beers. And so where we have the way to think of this is not every state is created the same. Not all of them have the same alcohol laws, even in regards to non-alcoholic beers. There are some states where a person under 21 cannot buy non-alcoholic beers because it's still technically in their laws a beer. And so, depending upon the state, we are building these relationships and getting these agreements made so we can get on the shelf. I don't have the list in front of me right now, but it's about 29 states that have simpler and easier laws to get into distribution with. And so, New York, California, Colorado, I think Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Texas, where I am, have laws, and that's just a handful. And so those are places that we're going to want to go, places that have interest in non-alcoholic, that the market is beginning to be excited about them coming in. And then we've set up a couple of agreements with some retailers, some large scale retailers, to be in there come January 1, actually December 29, for dry January. And so I think I can talk about this. One of them is Target. So we're going to be in 1,500 Target stores approximately in the United States as a big feature, end cap, big displays come January, and
That's
be there
awesome.
for the first 3 months. So things like that are things we are working on. I don't know all of them that are in the works, but those are those kind of the indicators, the things that we're going to be doing that would bring us into retail in your market.
Right. Yeah. Because it's way easier to move product if I can just go to the store and pick it up versus go online, got to order, got to wait for it, all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm always willing to do it.
Exactly.
Grant, I have one other question. It's not my normal one, but because you know this brand is associated with Tom, I know you've gotten to do some cool things. Just more on the fun side, like what's one of the more like cool experiences that you've had just being involved with the BERO brand and its sort of connection to Tom?
Oh man. Well, we had our big brand launch was in New York City the week of October 16th. And I think the most fun and exciting thing to happen to me was he did an appearance on the Seth Meyers show. So was there with Seth Meyers talking about his journey, talking about the beers. And when he was when he was being interviewed with Seth, Tom said something to the effect of, well, we have an actual brewmaster that has created these beers. And Seth goes, you have an actual brewmaster? And Tom says, yeah. And he kind of points up into the audience. He says, yeah, he's right there. So the cameras all swing around to me and my wife. We're sitting in the audience. And so I got my 5 seconds of national television on Seth Meyers.
Yeah, I saw that clip. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was very cool.
Actually, I saw that clip and I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to be on my little podcast.
No, glad to do it. Glad to chat.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yes, Grant, thank you so much for the time. Where do people go if they want to pick up some BERO today?
Yeah, so www.berobrewing.com is where to go. Everything I've seen, the website is really beautiful. Again, they did a great job with the visuals, the videos, and the ordering process. If I'm not mistaken, it's 3 clicks to get beer. Basically, it's pretty easy to enter your information. And I would even ask if your folks that are listening to this podcast are interested, we have a loyalty program, Club BERO, which is great. It does cost a kind of an upfront, but you get discounts, first information about new brands, new styles that we're doing, and probably first crack at merch. So there's a lot of really fun little things that go along with being a part of the program, and I would highly recommend it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Uh,
man. My one critique is I need stickers. I need stickers in my package. I like my
I like to put
non
stickers on my.
I like my non-alcoholic beer stickers. So.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, it's very interesting, and again, I'm just a brewer. I'm not the marketing guy. But Jackie, who has been our VP of marketing, is just fantastic, and she's like holding the reins on this thing. I think to yes, we want to build excitement. Yes, we want to create this really cool brand experience. And right now, she's just being very careful about
Sure.
all the merchandise because every piece of merchandise costs money. And so
Right.
we want to be we are a luxury brand. We want that great appearance, but we're also good business people. We're being very careful about how we roll forward. I'm not going to put words in Jackie's mouth because she might not appreciate what I'm about to say, but I have a feeling that come January, you're going to see some more stuff. You're going to see
Cool.
some fun things as we roll into 2025 to enhance that merchandise experience. So
Well, that's awesome. We'll be looking out for that.
We're excited about it.
Grant, thank you so much for being on the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast. We appreciate your time and have a great afternoon.
thanks for the opportunity. Great to chat with y'all.
Well, thank you, Grant, for being on the Alcohol-Free
Right.
Marriage and More podcast. Just a awesome, story of his, background and how he got to where he is, and
Yeah.
just a fun, for a guy who was like pretty much ready to retire, to have this kind of
Was retired.
second life of just like doing a whole new creative thing and getting work
Back
with
at
Tom
it.
and
And it is, I don't know, you can just hear his passion in it. And I
Yeah.
loved the whole interview. And also, we have a big holiday coming up. Not only Christmas, but
New Year's.
New Year's.
New Year's.
So, go out there. They have that loyalty program.
Yeah.
And just try it.
Yes.
Get that.
Get
what
that
is-
mix. That mix 12.
mix, yes.
You get four of each of the three beers in the 12-pack.
Yeah, it's great. I think you're going to enjoy it. So
Yes. So get out there and get that BERO. Be a hero and get some BERO, kids.
that's right.
Yes.
Remember, it's Spider-Man's beer.
Yeah, it's a beer of Spider-Man. I mean, how cool is that, right? All right. Well, Grant, thanks for being on the podcast again. Thank you all for listening. I am Matt, along with Coach Amy, wishing you peace and love from the cornfields. And we are
out.